Very good, very good. Right. Is it time to kick off, do you think? Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, welcome, folk. My name's Ian Moore. I am a trustee of A Rocha UK, which may be a charity you've never heard of, but if you know anything about Eco Church, then amongst other things, A Rocha UK is, if you like, the current steward of the Eco Church programme. It's not always been the organisation behind it, but it's the current organisation behind it. So I want to talk to you a little bit tonight about what A Rocha as a charity does, because it's more than just Eco Church. But before that, I just want to dial back a little bit and think about why are we here? Why are we talking about caring for the planet, caring for God's creation? If we take the first slide, or the first half of the first slide, environmental care has been around quite a long time. This is from 2007, 50 things that will save the planet. Well, perhaps there's a slightly surprising one if we click on here, as to what was in here. Time for the faith groups to remind everyone a duty to restore ecological balance. Well, that was 2007, and that was put up by non-faith experts, scientific experts. They were calling on the faith groups to start to take the lead. Wow, interesting. We know a lot about the climate crisis. One of the things we're particularly focused on A Rocha is about habitats and species as well. So the next slide, it just shows us the sort of problem we've got. I'm not an ornithologist. I can't tell you what type of bird that is. Somebody here might be able to. It's a gannet, thank you. And it's making a nest with discarded electrical wire. It's not twigs, seaweed, it's discarded electrical wire. The next slide shows us another couple of problems. A bird covered in oil from a large oil spill. And some official report called the State of Nature. This is the cover page of this official report. I don't know about you, but I can't see much nature in that photo. Just one little strip diagonally. There's not a lot left of space there left for nature in that photo. A couple of trees, a little bit of greenery, and the rest of it's been made over to man's needs. What are we going to do about it? Nice little cartoon from the oldie. It's kind of good, but then, as some of the adverts have said, well, there isn't a plan B. There isn't a planet B. There's this one. And we know how intricately linked so many of the biological and ecological processes are, and sort of tinker with them at your peril like you would a really finely engineered watch. But boy, have we tinkered, and boy, have we done a lot of things to make the changes. Anyway, A Rocha and A Rocha International is one charity, an explicitly Christian charity, that is trying to do its bit. Here's a lovely bit of wetlands, lots of migratory birds on it, and it's a sort of habitat that we're trying to preserve. So how and where did A Rocha come about? It started here in this little building in Portugal, and perhaps now the penny, or perhaps the escudo, might be dropping as to the name A Rocha, because it's quite an unusual name, and it's actually the Portuguese word for rock. And it was started out of this building, a nature conservation building in Portugal, a sort of study centre, when a small group of people were so determined to do something that they set up the organisation that became A Rocha. It's still a study centre. It's still doing nature conservation work. It's still open if you want to go there and partake your bit in terms of citizen science. Very much still there, still going. But Our Russia now is in 20 countries. It is actually a British developed charity, which is why this map looks a bit more like the British Empire than it does look like the Portuguese Empire. It is British developed charity, started in Portugal. Our Russia International has moved country several times, is currently headquartered in the UK. And then you have all these national organisations in 20 different countries, all trying to care for God's creation. And with the green dots as well, you can see some of the other partner projects that Our Russia has as well. So it's truly global and truly trying to work on restoring creation and wildlife in all those places. And just one last picture about the why. Again, what do you see here? Most people see an elephant coming out of the forest. But flip the picture, go to the negative of it. I see a human track driving human encroachment into the wildlife space. Is that an elephant intruding on the humans, or is that the humans have encroached out of the village and into other places and spaces? It's worth sometimes flipping how you think about things and getting to a different view. And here, just a few pictures showing one or two of the things that Our Russia International does across its various different sites. This obviously is a pretty large litter pick in a coastal reserve. Again, just doing some basic work, volunteer engagement to try and restore the state of the ecology. There's a parallel program called Climate Stewards, you may have heard of. Quite some good resources there actually as well on the Climate Stewards website if you want to go and take a look. And they too have a number of programs operating in terms of wildlife restoration, if you like. And it's not just about wildlife, it is about how humans live. The next slide shows a couple of some of the projects. You can find details of all of these on the various Our Russia websites, but fireless cookers, so that you don't get smoke and pollution and you actually burn less wood. Tree growing. Trees are, it's such a simple thing, but they do so much to a local environment. They can enrich the soil, they can provide fruit, medicines, leaves and bark can be used for all sorts of clothing and other things. They can provide timber for building. They restore the soil. They provide shade in hot conditions. So many things that tree cover and tree growing and tree planting can do. And they can also, through all those resources, give people an income. So you can address poverty to a certain extent as well. And if in your eco-church you are looking for a project under that heading, global engagement, how can we pair up with something or other? Well, I would suggest to you could do far worse than pick one of these Our Russia International projects and make it your cause for a year or something or other. You could do far worse than that. Anyway, that's a brief overview of Our Russia internationally. What I want to talk somewhat more about is Our Russia UK, and that's the body that I'm a trustee of. And you see there the strapline straight up front, caring for God's earth. And that's at the heart of what Our Russia does. We are a Christian charity. We are distinct from other charities, all operating in much the same sort of space. You'll have heard of all of these, and they're all doing really great work. But Our Russia is kind of unique in doing this explicitly from a caring for God's creation ethos. That is why we're doing it, and it's also how we're doing it. I love what all these other organisations do, and I hope that Our Russia has a unique place alongside working with and helping these organisations and their supporters. So our mission, mobilising Christians and the churches to care for the natural world. Mobilising Christians and the churches. I said we're explicitly a Christian charity, and that ethos comes all the way through the organisation. And our workers are you. We are trying to mobilise you folk, your churches, your fellowships, to care for the natural world. And part of that's just simply about news and encouraging you to get out into the natural world, because it's pretty well proven that if you engage with the natural world more, you want to protect it more. And that's a message we try to take to all generations. I'm going to stop a moment and we'll play this film. There we go. Some nice pictures there of some of the work, some of the actual tangible work. So let me just take you through a little of each of the 4 programs, the 4 strands of our Asher's work. And they're listed here. There's convening, there is conservation, real hands-on conservation. There's empowering individuals and families, and then there's helping churches. And I'll say a little bit about each 4 of these in turn. So in terms of convening, our Rocha does a number of things. It's part of the Church's Environmental Issues Network, and it provides quite a lot of support to Christian leaders. Now, recently there was a Church of England synod meeting, and there was a huge step forward in terms of motion on biodiversity. And actually that work, which was led, I think, by the Bishop of Norwich, was in the background supported by the Secretariat at our Rocha. So the Bishop of Norwich gets all the credit, but a lot of the work was done by our Rocha. And we don't care. He's got the credit. The Church of England has now taken a big step forwards on its commitment to biodiversity. And actually, with the Church of England, there is so much land owned round churches, in graveyards, on so-called glebe schools, glebe land, all sorts of places, that if that amount of land could be harnessed for biodiversity, for restoration, for carbon capture, for whatever, then that would be fabulous. So there's quite a lot of work in convening, a lot of it is unseen, and that doesn't matter to us as our Rocha. We're happy to just be the hidden doers on that one. Great piece of work by the Bishop of Norwich. Now, we talked earlier, I mentioned conservation, and there's really 2 levels of conservation. There's what we do ourselves, sort of demonstration of stuff, if you like, and then there's how we help others. And in terms of what we do ourselves, we have two small reserves. One's called Wolf Fields. It's over in Southall, West London, basically underneath the Heathrow flight path. So if you've flown in and out of Heathrow, you've almost certainly been very close to it without knowing. And the other, Foxearth Meadows, it's kind of on the North Suffolk border. And they're quite different. They're quite different reserves. But we have one site manager in each of the places, and the rest of it is done by community volunteers. And they're to demonstrate land conservation and restoration in very, very practical terms. This next slide is a photo of what Wolf Fields looked like when A Rocha took it on. It was the local fly tipping place. It was also the local drug dealing place. And it was just not a place you would want to go to at all. Now, 3 or 4 years later, with the help of brilliant volunteers like these from around the community, it's been reclaimed for humans and nature. And it's a pleasant place to go now. And this is a food growing allotment, as you can see on the site. But it just shows what you can do with a little bit of time and effort in a relatively short space of time. It's a fantastic demonstration project, and as I said, that is in very, very urban London. And it's fantastic. Schools are taken there for class visits and things like that. It's really great. And it's us showing very clearly this is one of the things we do. I haven't got any photos of Foxearth Meadows, but it is one of the things it is renowned for is its dragonflies and damselflies. It's a wetlands reserve, amongst other things. And I'm told it's got the highest concentration of dragonfly and damselflies for its size in the country. So at some point, hopefully, I will get up there. Don't suppose I'm going to get any good photos, but we'll have a go. We'll have a go. But the other side of conservation is what we call Partners in Action. And this is where we work with 50 landowners, Christian landowners, who want to do more on the property, on the land they own. Some of it is cathedrals, some of it's city farms, forest schools, you see the list there. Our target is to get up to 75,000 acres of Christian-owned land under the Partners in Action scheme. And we're well on the way to that. As I said, we've got 50 at the moment. And one of the key goals we want out of that is to address what we call Target 25. And that's 25 species or habitats that are in dire decline in this country. And we want to try and reverse the trend on those in conjunction with our Partners in Actions. And here is one of the 25. Any guesses what this is? It's a toad. Any guesses which toad? Probably not. No. Well, I've got the website details here. Its Latin name is Bufo bufo, which just means toad, because this is the common toad. Now, just give that a moment to sink in. I said these are species in decline, in peril. This is the common toad. This isn't the lesser spotted, longer-nosed, prickly-eared toad. This is the common toad, which is in a species under threat and in decline. Let's hope some of what we're doing, wetland areas and others, is going to help it. The third strand is helping individuals, and we run a program called Wild Christian. There are quite a lot of other Christian programs out there, Green Christian and the like, but we run a program called Wild Christian. I've got sign-up forms here with me, or you can use the ones in the pews. If you want to get a regular feed of hints, tips, prayer material, reflection material to help you in your personal mission. I'm sort of sorry, sort of not sorry about the donate today on there. We do rely on donations to fund ourselves as a charity. And obviously we encourage people when they're signing up, if they can sign up on the donation side as well. So I'm sort of sorry, sort of not sorry that that's there on the slide. Here we go. 3 principles behind Wild Christian: to enjoy, to nurture, and to defend. Yeah, enjoy nature. Get out there. It is wonderful out there, and your eyes just get opened to different things. And then when you've got that love of nature, you will want to defend it more. You will want to nurture it, you will want to defend it more. I think the number of subscribers is now over 8,000 rather than 6,500. It's growing really quite strongly. As I say, it's just something that pops into your email box and just gives you something, gives you a bit of a lift as well in terms of positive encouragement that things are being done on that front. And again, if you're kind of struggling around one of those lifestyle questionnaires in the Eco-Church questionnaire, and you're thinking, how do I get individuals and to think about their lifestyle and so on, well, you could encourage them to sign up for Wild Christian as part of your Eco-Church program, and then that would just gather and garner more people with a mutual interest. And now we come on to Eco-Church, which I think most of you know quite a bit about in terms of its framework, its toolkit for action. And the growth of Eco-Church at the moment is really quite amazing. There's now about 7,500 churches registered. In the last year and a half that I've been running a little local network called Eco-Church Network Bromley, I've seen 3 or 4 new churches come onto the site and be registered just in that last year and a half. It's growing quite fast. Roughly half those churches have an award, bronze or higher, which is fantastic. Over 1,000 have reached silver. The number of golds is quite a lot less, but it's quite hard work getting to gold. 49 golds at the moment, but I'm told the pipeline is growing, and I'm told that this is starting to create a problem for our Rocha, because whereas for bronze and silver you kind of self-certify, here's my questionnaire, and then you self-certify that it's honest and truthful, and then your minister has to go in and say, yes, it's honest and truthful. And so for gold, you actually get a visit that comes out and does a light audit. And we're going to struggle to keep up that way of validating gold awards because of the volume of audits coming through now. Now, that's a lovely problem to have in many ways. It says things are heading in the right direction, doesn't it? Our target, we'd love to see 1 in 4 churches in the UK engaged with Eco-Church. And there is a parallel scheme in Scotland, Eco Congregation Scotland. It's actually technically a separate charity. There's also one in Ireland, Eco Congregation Ireland. So we've got the whole of the British Isles covered, just in 3 different organisations. And people think that Eco-Church requires you to have land about you, and it does not. This is St James in Piccadilly, about as in the heart of the City of London as you can get, and they are a gold awarded church, and they have done what they can on their site. You can just about see the solar panels there on the south-facing side of the roof. Because of course, in Anglican churches, every church faces east-west, which means you've got a south-facing roof. Every single Anglican church has got a south-facing roof, which of course is the direction you want it facing for solar panels. But they've done so much on all the other aspects in an intensely urban environment. And some churches have got really quite imaginative about some of their solutions. This is, I think it's St James Church in Toxteth, great big barn of a place. You know, you can see it's got a double level central aisle anyway, and these whacking great pillars and these sorts of things. This is going to be cathedral size almost. This isn't parish church side. So you can imagine how heating that is going to be a problem. No, it's not. We'll just put our little gazebo up and we'll meet as a congregation inside the gazebo, and then we only need to heat that amount of space, don't we, inside the church. And they've got another one down the other end of the church, which is where the juniors meet. So imaginative solutions, improving the quality of worship and dealing with otherwise completely unsuitable buildings. So they haven't had to change the building radically, they've just taken a really imaginative solution. And if you do have land, if you are in a country setting, this photo always just wants to make me smile. The wildflower meadow, the patch of grass and the picnic tables, just encouraging people to get out there and enjoy nature. And obviously this church is nurturing nature as well. And you can do a lot with just a small patch. It doesn't have to be a big patch of land. Whether you plant a small hedgerow that encourages nesting birds, whether you plant a small bit of wildflower meadow that encourages all the pollinators, you can do a lot in a small place. And one of the reasons that the Eco-Church programme is really taking off at the moment is courtesy of the Church of England, who have pretty much adopted the Eco-Church programme as part of their net zero carbon route map. Sorry, I have to say that slowly because otherwise it doesn't trip off the tongue. But under the leadership of Julian Atkins, who runs the net zero carbon programme for the Church of England, they have a route map to try to get to net zero by 2030, which is, believe me, incredibly ambitious. The URC's objective is to get to net zero by 2030 as well. I can't speak for other denominations, I don't know what their targets are, but this is incredibly ambitious. And I have to say, Julian Atkins and his team have done a fantastic job in motivating, mobilising, that's probably a better word, mobilising churches towards this goal. And part of that, they've more or less mandated Eco-Church as part of the programme. And actually we're very grateful to them because they've also given A Rocha quite a big block grant to help fund what A Rocha does that they're riding on the back of. So by the end of 2023, they wanted 10% of all local churches registered in every diocese. And they wanted every diocese registered, and I think they got to 49 out of 50. And I do know which one wasn't registered, but I'll spare their blushes. By 2026, they want 40% of all churches registered, and they want 30% of churches awarded, of which a third should be at silver or better. This is ambitious, isn't it? I mean, those of you that are part of an Eco-Church programme, you've probably experienced it. You can get to bronze within a year or so just by tweaking a few things around the edges. Most churches, if you've got that ethos anyway, you're pretty close to bronze. Getting the silver is quite hard work. It's 2, 3, 4 years more work. By 2029, they want all the dioceses to have reached gold diocese status. Now, for a diocese, as opposed to an individual church, there's a slightly separate scheme, but the key criteria are that the local churches are on that journey, so they will have to have a certain number of gold standard local churches as well as a very high level of registration. The diocesan offices have to be on that journey as well. So Church House, if you like, has to have done what it can around energy saving and all those sorts of things. And then there's a lot of stuff around education, ministerial training, and how frequently this is reported and encouraged through all the church communications. It's quite difficult to do. In the URC, all the synods are now registered to try and reach bronze standard. About half the synods have got there. Nadine and I were recently working on seeing how close we thought Southern Synod was to getting its status as Bronze Award. The good news is that we're pretty much there on most things, particularly the ministerial training, the communication, the number of churches registered and with Bronze Awards and so on. We're all there on all those sorts of things. We're not there on the church house. So our property officer at Church House has now been asked to get on with trying to get Church House up to bronze standard on the premises dimension. And that's the missing piece for us, but we're working on it. So that's A Rocha, and that's in particular, that's what A Rocha UK does. We are trying to care for God's creation, trying to care for God's earth. We have a particular focus on habitat, on conservation and restoration, and we want to mobilise that. Get the churches and all the congregants doing their own thing, and we've got the tools through Wild Christian and through Eco Church to help individuals and churches make those steps and try and drive this agenda. I'm so grateful to be part of the A Rocha organisation. I love coming out and doing these talks and encouraging other people to do it as well. And I really hope that this has given you a good insight, and I'd love you to sign up as a member yourself. I would also love you if you would sign up for donations. I'm going to be quite overt about that as well. Every little donation we can get, either from your church or from you as individuals, all helps sustain this work that we are trying to do. And I think we put our mouth where our money is, or we put our money where our mouth is as well, in terms of Foxearth and Wolffields. We are doing some of the hard work ourselves and demonstrating how it can be done. Thank you very much. That's okay. Lovely.
Waiting for the stream to finish.
Right.